School Lunch and Student Health,
by Rachel Koo.
Aubrey
Aubrey
Massoud,
Masood, Declan O'Rourke.
and Leah Robinson. And the question we're addressing is, what regulations, if any, should be implemented to improve the nutrition of public school-supplied lunches?
Our agenda is that first we'll go over the background, then the short-term effects, long-term effects, economic effects, alternative solutions, and our own solution.
So for some background, the National School Lunch Act of 1946 was established in 1946 to combat the high rates of undernutrition in students across the country. Over time, with the rate of overweight children rising to 17%, with an additional 34% of children 2 to 19 being considered at risk in 2004, according to Benjamin L. Campbell et al., the priorities of the National School Lunch Act began to shift with the passing of other bills, such as the Health Hungry Free Kids Act of 2010, which focused on providing high nutrition and low fat meals for students across the country.
Our problem is that there's a rise of obesity in the nation. There's no fresh food. Well, there's limited fresh food in lunches, and a lot of the lunches are very unhealthy.
All right. So, according to the 9th edition of the Dietary Guidelines for Americans, 85% of male and 78% of female adolescents aged 14 to 19 are exceeding the daily recommended maximum of saturated fat for a 2,000 calorie diet. This is, in part, because of the current existing guidelines for the National School Lunch Program. The National School Lunch Program caps out at 10% of the meal's caloric value coming from saturated fats. Now, while this would be fine if all students were eating had a maximum of 10% as its saturated fats, that is not true. And thus, it is our belief that it is the role of the government to resolve this by bringing down that percentage to compensate for the increase in saturated fats consumed in other foods. Additionally, poor nutrition is prominent across Americans in the country. According to the USDA, 76% of adolescents ages 14 to 18 are not consuming enough fruits or vegetables, which is another issue that could be resolved by changes in the National School Lunch Program. Finally, the reason why these things are so important is that they directly impact students' ability to perform in school. They cause lower concentration and lower test scores across the board for all students who are under provided.
Improving school lunch programs has long-term benefits for students' health, cognitive development, and lifelong eating habits. The Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010 set higher nutritional standards for school meals, leading to increased fruit and vegetable consumption and lower intake of unhealthy foods among students. Research by Haynes Maslow in Lessons from the Lunchroom further supports this, showing that expanding access to nutritious options significantly improves students' food choices. Additionally, Schazenbach's study, Do School Lunches Contribute to Childhood Obesity?, highlights that nearly all public schools participate in the National School Lunch Program, making it the most cost-effective platform for widespread nutritional improvements. Additionally, as you can see in the graph, from the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act, the rate of obesity in impoverished students has already started declining. Looking ahead, the future of school nutrition may involve technological innovations like vertical farming, lab-grown proteins, and AI-driven meal planning to make healthy food more accessible and cost-effective. While these advancements hold promise, they require significant investment and must also balance affordability, sustainability, and cultural preferences. By integrating nutrition education, leveraging federal programs like NSLP, and building on the progress of the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act, schools can shape healthier generations and create lasting impacts on public health. As you can see from this graphic, there are multiple factors of previous legislation that have been affected by school lunch programs.
In order to talk about school lunch reform, we also need to consider the cost and economic effects. Currently, schools rely on competitive foods for funding, like snacks and sodas. According to Fried and Simmons' 2007 research in the Duke Law Journal, this reliance creates a conundrum between revenue and student health for schools. But with reform, we can now reform a system through growth in agricultural industry. By investing in sourcing foods locally, we can boost our local agriculture, creating jobs and supporting farmers. Birnavard and Lieb's work in the Food and Lug Draw Journal supports this, suggesting that a national food strategy could enhance economic growth. In addition, the economic effects of a reformed school lunch program is that there will be a more educated workforce. Better nutrition leads to better academic results, as highlighted by Devaney in The Future of Children, while more students achieve more in school, potentially leading to a more skilled workforce in the future, which also grows the economy. So now we're talking about our alternative solution, which is the snacks program. As we move forward, school environment and education reform is the main changes in the snacks program. This program changes what's doesn't just change what's on the menu. It's about transforming the entire school environment to support health and learning. It uh, they promote an increase in healthy eating and focuses on promoting nutritious choices like fruit and vegetable consumption while cutting down on sugar sweetened beverages. A limitation is that it has a short duration and a higher cost. You might think that implementing a lot of healthy eating would be really expensive, but that's not necessarily the case. According to Lapido in the snacks program, it only costs about $2.11 per student over 5 weeks, but significantly influences healthier eating habits. But this still costs the school more money. So we have our final solution.
Our solution begins with the reducing the saturated fat content as previously discussed. By cutting that 10% limit to a 5% limit of caloric intake coming from saturated fats within school lunches, we can compensate for the increased consumption of saturated fats that's coming from other parts of people's nutritional diets. To boost the access for fruits and vegetables, we are recommending that schools use local providers to enable them to have better access to fresh fruits and vegetables, which can then be more appealing to the students who are then eating them. This helps also fund itself by boosting the local economy, by putting the money directly back into local areas. Some of that money that is being spent in local areas is then taxed again and is thus able to be used to fund the program further. To incentivize schools to join into this program, we advise creating a subsidy for schools that are part of this program to help get them off the ground, as in the short term, our solution is far more expensive than many others. In the long term, however, it balances out by becoming a sustainable and long-running program that does not cost a lot of money. And here's our Works Cited page. Thank you.